Okay. Um, I have many things to ask or say, but first I'm going to pipe down and ask if anybody else has any questions or comments on that fabulous presentation from Mallery. You can, there aren't so many of us, you can unmute yourself or any way that feels. I can see that Laura and Carla are both unmuted. So how about Laura?
So when you were writing about the kind of, you had the three sections for historical trauma, language barriers, and cultural barriers, you said that Navajo was an exception while using descriptive language, and I was just curious about that, the asterisks
Oh,
there.
yeah. I forgot to mention that when I said that of the 7 languages spoken here in New Mexico, 2 are the only ones that are written, and that would be Zuni and Navajo. However, Zuni is only written in as it pertains to the current language. The Navajo Nation is actually creating a glossary on genetics and scientific terminology. So they are creating a dictionary of sorts. They already have one that has been produced, and they're currently working on one specifically for genetics. And however, if you look at the definition of what the word, let's say, cancer means, we put out cancer and we can talk about how it's a malignant tumor that has spread through the body. It's probably like a 1 to 2 sentence long English definition. In Navajo, it's about 3 paragraphs long. So it is a very descriptive, it's very highly descriptive language that has to be broken down into much smaller parts. And that's also why I say when we create outreach material, I have to be cognizant of these indigenous languages, how they're going to break it down. So right now the reading level for our communities is about a 7th grade level or less, but I think it has to be less because we have to make room for these translators to be able to translate it into the indigenous language.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. You said a genetic dictionary, and what other kind?
Yeah. A scientific medical dictionary.
Okay.
And I illustrated their genetics dictionary, which it's almost done. It's about to be released probably within the early next year.
Awesome.
Mary, I just saw your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. Mallery, I am so thrilled and honored to be part of this. And as you were talking, I know we don't have a big audience here, but I've thought of 10 people I'm going to send this to so that they can hear the recordings. And it's very inspiring. And I was curious, how did you start getting involved with this connection? And where did you go to school, or not go to school, or how did you? It'd be fun to hear a little bit about where you started as a teenager and how you reached where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Zuni Pueblo, we're such a really big artist colony there. I want to say about the last numbers, about 80% of the tribe, either their sole income or their supplemental income comes from the arts. We're jewelry makers, pottery makers, carvers, weavers. We still do a lot of our traditional arts and crafts, and a lot of our families, that's the only income that they have. And we are a very low income community, but we are very rich with our traditions and our heritage. And I really like to say I grew up raised as traditionally as modernly possible. So I grew up with a very traditional parents. And however, with the changing of modern times, I definitely wanted to, get an education. My original plan was to become a physician because I did. As young as I was, I understood the needs at the hospital. My mother was the director of a home health care agency. I have many family members that work in the hospital. Just hearing them and then me being terrified of the hospital, I wanted to know why I was so scared of that place and why our people were scared of that place. And I thought, well, maybe when I become a doctor, it'll be less scary for them. But along that journey, I found the inequities And a lot of it was communication barriers. There's a lot of barriers. Our community, the Zuni language, we have so many words to describe pain, like so many words, and how we don't know how to translate some of it into English and what it means. And so I said, we really need people who know their culture and know their traditions, know their language to be a part of this healthcare team. And along the way, I decided to take a gap year before I applied for medical school. But then, the gap year turned into gap years. And that's when Dr. Johnny Lewis found me. But I graduated from Zuni High School. I went to public school my whole life, and I went to the University of New Mexico for my degree in biology. I did minor in art, but I feel like I learned more about the arts from back home in my community and being amongst our artist friends here in Albuquerque. And I didn't know none of the work I did at the hospital was on purpose for that reason, for it to be for health communication. It was actually about identity. Those paintings, there's actually 16. The hospital procured 12. Those paintings were actually to address identity, because when I was doing research in Berkeley, I actually used to live in Berkeley for a few years doing research at the Children's Hospital Oakland. I did diabetes research and pediatrics, and because I was gone, because I was so far away from community, people were warning me, oh, don't lose your language, don't lose your identity, don't lose, you're not Zuni anymore if you're gone that long. And I felt that very offensive, because I grew up very traditional and very strong in my culture. And I decided, instead of getting angry and retaliating through words or actions, I wanted to rebut what they said through art. And so I created the anatomy, because I was studying anatomy in class, and I said, well, I have a test coming up. What better way to study anatomy than to draw it? And I had a drawing class that needed a series of arts, 2 birds, 1 stone. And the work I created was to say, I will never be undone. This is who I am. Take off my skin. I'm etched. My bones are etched. My DNA has everything that makes me Zuni. And then when the hospital took it, no idea that it actually started the dialogue that providers and practitioners were needing, that people were wanting to be more proactive in their healthcare. People were actually asking questions instead of going in after they were sick. They were actually, maybe they were there for something else, and they saw, the heart, and they said, is that what the heart is supposed to look like? Is it supposed to be that pretty? How do I keep my heart that pretty? So it created a dialogue we didn't know we really needed to have. And now I do it on purpose. Now I actually create with that intention, that it's going to create a dialogue with the people, and that it informs, and that we are included. And it's just become a mission that I didn't know needed it. I wanted to retire doing some kind of sci art, medical illustration. I don't know. I wanted to, be that old lady doctor just sitting at home with all her paints. And I'm actually doing the opposite. I might be an old lady doctor, but I'm an artist right now. So that's been my life journey.
Thank you.
I think you're on the right path. Everything that we've seen and we've heard, it seems like you're serving so many in the way that you're doing your art and your communication. Carla, did you have a question or a comment?
Oh, just briefly, I wanted to thank you. This has been very enlightening and inspiring, and your artwork is stunning. And I am on the board of the New Mexico Women in the Arts, and I'm an artist, but not a scientist or an earth-based artist. But I wanted to listen in to just expand my knowledge a bit about who else is working. And I'm also live in Albuquerque, and I just the intersection of all you're talking about is so inspiring, and I'm hoping that maybe our group can speak with you at some point about something to support your
absolutely.
efforts and to expand this thinking. It's so intentional and important. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's the next goal of me. I don't want to be alone in this. Since I don't have anybody around me or near me doing similar work, I've been reaching out, and like I said, I've been put into boxes like art therapy or medical arts and our arts and medicine, which it's, I do some of that, but this one specific that I create to educate communities and to empower also, it's kind of on its own. And so weed here is like, I mean, I've seen the work that's been posted and I said, yes, this is very much along the lines of like what I do. And the next mission is to try to get this, tool into other people's hands. I mean, New Mexico, we are just flooded with artists. And I know that someone has the same intentions. I know there's people out there that probably have interest in science or medicine, public health. Artists, we're pretty flexible. I know that folks can create. Just being informed a little bit about something. I'm just trying to also, reach out to other institutions on how to work with artists and actually how to work with Indigenous artists, because we as Indigenous artists also have kind of like this unwritten law that we are also kind of the documenters, the record takers, recording our culture and our heritage through our art. And so there's that process that we all found. And I want to combine that with the different places that might need that extra help when communicating with our communities. So that's been, the University of New Mexico has been very kind to give me the space. I mean, artist in residence programs usually only last a couple months or a year. I'm going on my 6th year being with them. So I would like to give others a chance. And hopefully at the end of this year, we'll start the small cohort to gather individuals to get that ball rolling.
So I'm curious if you think that I don't understand it very well because I didn't get to go on the trip, but we sent a van load of our parents and immersion school students to the Shalako ceremony at one point. We were invited by a tribal member who's married in here, who's Zuni, and or a Zuni woman who's married into the tribe. And so we sent our kids and parents down there. But to me, that was a huge welcoming to the world and by the Zuni people. And so I wonder if maybe some of your communication skills come from that healing the world perspective in a sense, or sharing at that scale, at the scale of the need.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why also another part of wanting to teach this and to have others to have access and to hone their skills, there's one part that cannot be taught, and that cannot be taught in any university, and that's what I grew up with, was our traditions, our Pueblo core values that we have, and our language. It's all tied together, our traditions, and that can't be taught at the university level. I cannot get a PhD for what I have. I have very many PhD level elders and community members that I seek guidance from, but it's just not anything you can learn outside of, our communities. And in Zuni, we're humble, we're welcoming, we're always, having to talk things out. I mean, our dinner table discussions can last hours. So we eat for a long time. Everything's about food. We're all about community. And we try to, compromise and talk through things, and we heal together. We do so many things together, as I mentioned, that it's just kind of ingrained in us. And that's the part that I'm trying to find out from our communities, who else, can take that with them to these places we need them at. Scientists, doctors, and researchers, because that's the part that I will not be able to teach. very many other than my own kids, because we are growing up in this culture, and that's why our Zuni people are there's so much knowledge there, and that's kind of what is unique about me, I could say, that I would say from other artists.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
So it's 6:10. I'd like to be mindful of everyone's time. We try to keep our presentations to an hour. Mallery, I can't say enough how fantastic it was to hear about your work. I'm so impressed with all the layers, you know, the artistic skill and the medical and scientific knowledge and the ability to make sure it's appropriate for the 19 different Pueblo communities. I mean, it's really, there's so many pieces drawn in there. And to hear you say that you and your work feel alone, we would be honored to be part of that community of getting your work and your voice out to others who can benefit from that connection. This was really just a fantastic opportunity to meet you and hear about everything that you're doing. I am going to stop the recording. And whoops, if I can remember how to do that, here it is.